Welcome to the Brian Worth podcast. We're excited that you join us. Please hit like and subscribe and make sure to comment on this video. I want to remind you of my autobiography, Young Man Arise, has all the juicy details of me being sentenced to life in prison and ultimately 16 years later being delivered and set free to give you fresh hope. Give it online at any bookstore. Now, today we have a special discussion, and it's also a sensitive discussion, but we're believing that through this discussion, it's going to give somebody fresh hope and a direction whereby to get some help. And I want to welcome Henry Esqueda.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming on the podcast, Henry.
Thank you.
First of all, share a little bit about yourself. Who are you today?
So today I'm a man in Christ. I love Jesus. I have a beautiful wife. We've been married for 6 years.
I thought you were going to say 16 years.
No, man, not yet.
All right.
But we will.
Amen.
We got 2 children, 2 boys, one on the way, another boy,
Wow.
and we live in La Mirada.
Awesome. And so you got 2 kids, 3 on the way. Once you get that third one, you're officially a football team.
There we go.
So, Henry, we are going to talk about a little bit of your testimony, which is a pretty deep testimony, but we're believing it's going to encourage somebody and point somebody to Jesus.
Amen.
But you experienced a tragedy at the age of 8 years old. What happened at 8 years old in a nutshell?
Exactly. It was January 22nd, 1989. It was Super Bowl Sunday.
Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah. My mom was in a relationship with this guy that they had a rocky relationship. There was quarrels and
What was your mom's name?
Yvette. Her mom was Yvette.
And do you remember anything of her personality? What was she like?
She was a very vibrant person, energetic, into fashion. She had many friends, and she dressed the part of the '80s. She had the feathered hair.
Yes,
the
when you
styles
say the 80s, I think of
yeah,
big hair, Aquanet.
Aquanet, exactly.
And so take us to that dreadful day.
Okay,
You said that she was in an abusive relationship.
correct.
And what happened on that Super Bowl Sunday?
So what I saw that day was evil to a different degree, that I can never imagine. Worse than a horror show that you would see on any movie. I witnessed my mom, brutally stabbed and beaten with a baseball bat.
Wow, I'm so sorry.
From this person that she was dating at this time.
I'm so sorry to hear that. And so you said that she went over his house or home?
Yeah. So it was Super Bowl Sunday, and they had gone. We were at a Super Bowl gathering that evening, and they had gone into a disagreement, and so we thought. We left. Me and my mom and my sister. We had left the gathering, and we were thinking. I thought we were going to go to our apartment in the city of Whittier, but we ended up going to his apartment in the city of Alhambra, where my mom would finish up, doing some laundry, and. Yeah.
So I remember you saying that even as a little kid, you sensed in your heart something was wrong with this relationship.
Yeah, within the relationship, it was, it was rocky from the get-go. I don't think that he really cared for me as well. He wasn't pleasant towards me and my sister. He was a man that was troubled. He was a jealous man, and he had some past issues, as a kid growing up.
Did you sense that alarm on the day that this tragedy happened?
Yes, I did. Within my spirit, I knew that something wasn't going to be right. I knew that we weren't going to be safe if he was going to return back to his apartment. And I pleaded with my mom, desperately to let's go home, But obviously, she didn't listen to me.
So all three, your little sister, and your mom are in his apartment, and he comes home. What was the first indication at that moment that something was wrong? Did he start yelling? Was there an argument?
Yeah, so he started, he was rageful right when he got in. So I knew that was it. It was going to go south from here on out. To the degree I thought it would be, I never would imagine. And so from that point on, it was this, you know, a struggle of between them two, and then my mom, trying to survive, or avoid, getting stabbed and hit with the baseball bat. And at that particular moment, we were held, hostage. He had barricaded, the entry points or exit points from his apartment.
Wow. Thank you so much for even sharing this deep, deep story. I know it's not easy. I remember you sharing that at some point in time, he turned his rage over to you. What
Correct.
happened?
So at one point, he picked up a club. What is it? The steering wheel club.
Mhm.
And he was about to strike me, and I just remember the countenance on his face, this drop, and as if he saw like an angel behind us. And no, he didn't swing.
And you believe God supernaturally intervened at that
Oh,
moment.
he did intervene. Definitely intervened. Yeah.
Wow. And at some point in time, you said that you and your sister fell asleep in the midst of his aggression.
Correct. Yeah. So, and throughout the emotional, fear and the emotional, fear and the physical exhaustion of trying to escape as well, we just supernaturally fell asleep. And I remember just holding my sister tightly right before that, not knowing if we were going to make it out alive, you know. And sure enough, we did. Sure enough, nothing happened to us while we were asleep. And yeah, we woke up to the Alhambra Police Department SWAT team on a megaphone, calling for him to release us or to turn himself in.
Wow. And how did the police ultimately save you that moment?
So they sent in a canine right when they broke down the door. The canine knew exactly who to attack, and but yeah, I remember covering me and my sister with a blanket as the canine came and sniffed around us.
Man,
And
that must have been
yeah,
traumatizing.
and so right after they knew the canine had gotten him, and through his screams, that the canine was
So
mauling him.
you feel that they let the canine go loose,
Mhm.
and the canine knew not to get you, and it went immediately to that person.
Exactly. It's
Amazing.
like if it sensed the evil.
Amazing. And so the police came and extracted you from the scene of the crime.
Correct.
And ultimately, that individual got sentenced to life in prison. And years later, he was going up for parole,
Correct.
and you would be summoned to sit in his parole hearing. How did that cause you to feel?
So going to the parole hearings, as we would get these notices in the mail, it just felt a sense of anxiety and once again a sense of hate for him. So we would embark every 4 years on a journey to whatever prison he was stationed at, and so going to these parole hearings.
Let me pause you for a
Okay.
second. That first parole hearing, I imagined, how old are you?
The,
Take a
f- the
guess.
first parole hearing I believe that I attended I was, I think, in high school at the time.
So you're a teenager,
Yeah,
and it's probably the first time you sit in a room with him as a teenager.
exactly.
How did that moment feel? Were you in the room already when he came in, or did you come in and he was the room already?
So they get into the room before the victims uh, go into the room, right? And he's already sat down. The board is there. Going into the room and immediately seeing him is just has has as someone that took your mom. I mean, immediately you think some thoughts that ain't
Were
so
you
Christ-like, right?
afraid,
Oh,
angry,
definitely not afraid.
hatred?
Definitely of hate, right? Of hate, and
Did you immediately look at him, or did it take you a while to look at him?
um, I don't think I wanted to know that I was looking. I wanted him to know I was looking at him, and I think he avoided us the majority of the
Did you
time,
ever
not to
make
look at
contact
us.
with him? Eye
Never,
contact?
never eye to eye until probably the last parole hearing.
So you wrestled with hatred, you wrestled with anger. How did that anger kind of manifest in your life towards him?
So definitely, the hatred that I had felt for him was one of I wanted him to be in bad standing in prison as long as he, you know, if he wasn't behaving right, that every time we would go to parole hearing, that it would be denied, and obviously he left a void in my life. He took my love. He took my mother away, and so I didn't want him to basically set foot in society, um, to see his loved ones, right? I mean, that those are thoughts that would go through my mind, kind of an eye for an eye type of thought.
And how did Jesus eventually help you to forgive him? Like, what was that wrestling about?
So at that particular time was 2013, and I was growing profoundly in my um, in my growth as a Christian, and I was coming to Chapel Change at that time, and that was very influential in my life as well. And so I needed that. I knew that I needed to forgive and let go of those shackles of hate that had bonded me for 4 years. And it wasn't that I, grew up. I mean, hated every single day, right? With that feeling of hate, but it was at those moments where, I hated him, right, for what he's done. Um, and so, at that point, I knew that in order for me to feel peace within my heart, I needed to exemplify the forgiveness of Christ.
And so you went into his parole hearing and you publicly forgave him?
I,
What did that look like?
yes, I publicly forgave him, and to some amazement, I think my family was in shock, and
Were you the first one to forgive him, like openly, you think?
openly, I believe I was. Openly, I believe I was, um, and
What did
I
that do for you?
well, it gave me a profound peace, a peace that surpassed all understanding, and I knew that my spirit was healed at that particular moment, and this the cross that had bounded me, I let it go that time. I let it go there as I walked out the prison door, those prison gates, and I just felt a sense of relief. And my hope too was that showing that sense of forgiveness, that my family would become my aunt and my uncle would start to commence healing in their lives as well.
Oh, wow. And I'm sure it did plant the seed.
Right.
And ultimately, the guy who killed your mother was released from prison after how many years?
He,
Approximately?
approximately, I believe it was. So, the the murder happened in '89, and he was released on parole in 2016.
Okay.
So that is
89,
25 years, close to 25 years.
approximately.
Let me
How
see.
does that
I don't,
make you feel
uh,
today?
today, I mean, as has
How has your faith,
yeah.
how has your faith in Christ affected you in the reality of that guy is released?
So as far as my faith in Christ has grown since, right? Um, as far as my spiritual growth and my testimony, and to share that with others, of forgiveness. That's the impact that I want to make on others, and especially in the realm of helping others overcome domestic violence.
And now you're part of a nonprofit that helps women who are experiencing domestic violence. Share a little bit about that nonprofit.
Correct. So our family is associated with a nonprofit organization. It's called Escúchame Project Yvette. Escúchame means to hear me, to listen to me. And my aunt is the one that spearheads the project, my aunt Diantha, and her sole aim and our aim is to help women, or to be a foreign, to create a forum of women that can share what they have gone through, and to help women with instilling faith in these women, right, and giving them the courage to overcome these battles and these struggles and this stigma of domestic violence. And we feel that no woman and children should ever go through this, and we know that specifically in relationships, that things happen. We're only human, but we feel that there's always a way, an outlet to become more Christ-like. So we want to instill faith, and we want to instill courage in women, so that they find peace and love.
Well, Henry, thank you so much for being open about your hurt as well as your hope. And I'm sure that through this story, your story, many women's eyes will be opened and they'll receive fresh hope to get help.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much for sharing this story.
Thank you.
If you're
Thank you.
watching today and you're going through domestic violence, there is help for you. Check out on the webpage Escúchame, a Vet Project. They offer support in different areas, but you do not have to stay in that relationship. There is someone who will support you and help you. Hit like on this video, even comment on this powerful story of hurt yet forgiveness in Christ. God bless you.